Hello. Hey, hey, hey. Okay, well, this is another one in a series of highly irregular live streams, all the way from the fabulous West Village of Manhattan, where I've lived in this beautiful hovel. Gee, I moved in here in 1977. I think the date was September 15th, so you do the math. An awfully long time. I spent most of my adult life in these couple of rooms, and I love it. I'm very comfortable here. I don't like to go outside much these days without benefit of a bodyguard. I'm just kidding. Anyway, all right, so I want to play some guitar for you. Let's set this thing up and get this party started. Start with this little looper. that was a snatch of something that I've resurrected. That's I've sent to Ernie Brooks, and I will send to Calvin Weston to work up in this new Gods and Monsters trio I put together. Now, we've only done a couple of gigs so far, but I have high hopes for this format. I really love playing with these guys. It's a pleasure, and it's just a matter of time before somebody dares to throw down enough shackles in the way of remunerative compensation for us performing. We shall see. But that's right now what I'm directing most of my energies into, with the hope of recording a new artifact, probably an EP. Certainly have enough new material for it. And anyway, it could be a whole album. I don't know if I'm really out for it or up for it, putting myself through the GoFundMe or Kickstarter route, but it's possible. So keep watching this space, and I'll just keep playing as the spirit moves me. It's my sad duty to report, I'm sure everybody is aware of this anyways, tuning in, but my dear friend and collaborator David Johansen is no longer with us. It's really unbelievably a sad time, and anybody who knew David was touched by his amazing generosity of spirit and hugely soulful heart. And I go back with him. I worked on the campaign for his very first solo album on Blue Sky, the David Johansen group, and it had some classic songs on it that I still love to listen to this day. French Chat, for instance, and Funky Boutique, and it's a terrific album. Cool Metro, they're all outstanding songs. And we bonded. I worked with him closely on the campaign around that album and throughout his time on Blue Sky Epic Records, which extended for several years there. I was also really good friends with his manager, Steve Paul, who's no longer with us, who believed totally in David's talent, as did most people who'd ever seen him play. Anyway, David played at my wedding to Caroline. We had a wedding party up on 57th Street in a very tall building. I'm trying to remember the date. Actually, I can't really say. I'm prohibited for saying. Caroline is in the other room watching something or other. And she's very sensitive because revealing this knowledge would date her in her estimation, but she's timeless. Anyway, I don't really care, but I will honor that covenant. So, at the party, David, as a wedding gift, did his Buster Poindexter show act with the great Tony Garnier on bass, who's played with Bob Dylan for years and years now, and Tony Machine, an incredible drummer. And I went on a road trip with David up to, I think it was Cornell, around this time. During the day, he had a gig with Joan Jett opening, and she was great fun. Also hanging out there with Kenny Laguna, her manager. And then David performed, and he just, stopped the show with an amazing extended version of Personality Crisis, which goes back to the Dolls, New York Dolls. And he had a trunk full of colorful hats. He was a hat guy. And he must have changed hats during that song, or I don't know. He had at least 50 that he put on for various parts, acting out that song. And this is where I actually first really met Ernie Brooks, who I was a fan of from the Modern Lovers. And Ernie was in David's band for a short time. And so that was a lot of fun. But I can think of all sorts of times I was with him. In fact, I was just reminded today that there was a great show on Channel 47 out of New Jersey for many years in the late 70s. I became aware of the show. It was the Uncle Floyd Show, Floyd Vivino, and his brother Jimmy Vivino is a friend of mine and plays in, is it the Tonight Show band, or leads Jimmy Kimmel's band? I forget which. But anyway, I've known Jimmy forever, and remember, he was a fan of Beef Hearts. I met him online here in New York at Folk City, going to see John Fahey, of all people, actually. This is going way back, but you see, I have a pretty good memory, although it's spotty at this stage. I can't always do instant recall of everything, but I was reminded today that I got David and his group, which was a great group, basically, of Staten Island kids. David was from Staten Island, to lip sync on the Uncle Floyd show. And they brought out a children's drum kit. This I'll never forget, which got kicked over in the first number. But he was great on that show. There must be some recordings of it. I think there is, with some video company or other. Check David Bird, B-U-R-D. My friend David Bird, who was a regular on that show, playing Artie Delmar. He's on Facebook, and he probably can direct you to whoever is flogging the Uncle Floyd episodes of those early years. And anyway, so I have a lot of memories of David. And one of the best was collaborating with him twice in the studio. The first time he lent his vocal prowess to a cover of a song called Spiderweb, which I co-wrote with Joan Osborne, a great, great singer, for her Relish album, co-written by Joan and 3 or 4 other people, including Rick Chertoff, who was my good friend at A&R, Columbia Records A&R, who brought me in on this project. He was over at Polydor at this point. And so we did a version of the song Spiderweb, which appears on the Relish album. And I had Mick Grandal, Jeff Buckley's, was it Mick Grandal? Where it was like the drummer. I'm trying to remember. Jeff's drummer, not Parker Kindred, another Mick. Matt Johnson. Sorry, see, senior moments about him. Matt Johnson plays tabla on this track, and there's somebody else on it. I'll post that again, but basically I've been posting the superb collaboration I did with David, and it's a song called One Man's Meat. And we made a nice video, me and a really good video maker based in Australia, who I've never had the pleasure of meeting in person, although I played there last year and I hope to go back there sooner than later. But he was on the other, another part of the continent and really couldn't make my shows, which were near Sydney, on that coastal area in New South Wales, Australia. But anyway, so he goes by the name AAA, 3XA. He's made many videos in collaboration with me, so check out the video for One Man's Meat. I'll post it again tonight after concluding this little moment musical. And I think it's one of the best song collaborations I ever had with anybody. Basically, as I do with most of them, I wrote the music. The music came first, and I sent David a cassette of me playing it down. And he started writing lyrics like crazy, and he kept calling me up. I remember over a weekend chortling over these lyrics. He was quite amused at coming up with a pretty funny, on the face of it, philosophical rap that he's then masterfully sang in the studio. We did this at the old Knitting Factory studio when it was on Leonard Street. They had this great digital recording set up in the basement. And Ernie Brooks worked on me, and we co-produced this track. And it was the kind of studio where you would record the band track up on the main stage during the day, because the space was free until it wasn't, which would be when a group came in to sound check for the early show, usually about 5 o'clock. But we'd get down there about noon and do all of our basic tracking of what we were cutting at the time, which was a whole album that was released under the title Coming Clean eventually. And we'd go up on the main stage, and there was no real talkback system, although they could hear us through a mic. but we couldn't hear a voice from the studio, so we just trusted they were getting everything. And I would loudly announce whatever the tape number was, and then we'd play it. And then we'd have to run down 3 flights of stairs to the basement to this little studio room, which was kind of a tight squeeze with all sorts of outboard gear and a board. I think the board had belonged to Pink Floyd, or was it Kramer? I forget the story of the origin of this board, but it was a good one, and it had it was a 24-track board that had been extended by, I think, 4 more tracks, so it was about 28 tracks. And they had 3 D88 machines slaved together to record on those 24 tracks that we elected to use. And that's how we did it in the old days, folks. So it was an early digital recording format that I'm sure nobody uses anymore, but in lieu of a 2-inch tape. They had that facility eventually, was it there? I don't know. But we probably mixed and mastered the album off these 3 D88s that were like synced up together. And we got some very good results, and especially on this track. It's me, Ernie on bass, Ernie Brooks, Jonathan Cain, great drummer who was in Gods and Monsters for quite a while, on drums, Joe Hendel on trombone, and Jason Candler on alto saxophone. And there was a bit of overdubbing, and then David came down and did his vocals in one afternoon, and they were just great. We worked really hard on just getting the right atmosphere. So check out this song, One Man's Meat, and check the video that I made for it with AAA. And well, that's all I gotta say for now. Thank you for tuning in. I got some sort of panoramic thing going with the iPhone today in broadcasting this. I don't know how I did it. It's sort of like padlock. I'm not very technically oriented, as you may well realize at this stage, but I hope to play for you again sooner than later. All right, and until that time, I remain Gary Lucas. Thank you for listening and tuning in.